I guess he's not saying anything else, so I'm starting. Alright. Continuous deprovement will eat your product for breakfast. So that's the name. You heard Roman and Vasily talking about the product management and mindset. It was both topics. Oh, okay. I didn't see you this evening previously. And I was looking at the descriptions of their talks and I was like, something's missing. What can I add at the end? So my quick reality check, how many of you, please do raise a hand, how many of you have written at least a few lines of code in your life?
I did.
Yeah, maybe you're not doing that anymore, but you know what it means. And first of all, if you want to judge me, if you want to say deprovement is not a word, you're wrong. It is. You can find it on Google search, showing up at 2007. And actually even continuous deprovement I found used once a few years ago, so I didn't invent even that. Meaning, I haven't invented a single thing in my life, I think. Well, I have written some code, but is that really an invention? It's gonna be, I guess, hard to see some of that text from the behind, but I like to define myself as a rather simple human being learning things. And with that, what I mean, I'm interested in lots of areas, the product thinking, the product mindset, the engineering, how the companies work, how the business works, and so on. And then from my learnings, I try to synergize that together into meaningful ideas, which hopefully helps you today. I hope. So one thing is, for those who are very careful with your mobile phones, I saw people making pictures like this, truly, from somewhere from the behind. You will need your mobile phone in a moment. We will have a small activity, so kind of keep them ready, because everyone hopefully will participate, but that's for later. Just keep them ready. Now, let's get into it. So let's start with a story. I'm a storyteller. Try to picture yourself for a moment as, it doesn't matter, are you a developer, a product manager, you're coming to a new company, it's your first day, you see the company has word Agile in its slogan. I assume in this audience everyone has at least a guess what Agile is. And then, well, cool, right? Cool. And then you kind of start your first days at the company. There's teammates watching over your shoulders, how you're doing stuff in your role. It's somewhat a maze. You're kind of going through stuff, trying to figure it out. You don't really understand the big picture of the company, but that's all right. It's just your first weeks, well, the first week. So you're kind of dealing with it. Okay. Finally, you join some very first meeting with some managers where teams meet. There's no bullshit. You hear them. They are discussing this issue, this solution, that solution. You're hard to follow. I believe some of you know the feeling. Cool, kind of cool. Then one day you stumble upon a wall which says project mindset vs product mindset. I am a bit surprised that Roman and Vasily kind of didn't dig into this, one of typical topics, how bad is project management and so on, comparing to product mindset and so on. So you see that, you're like, yeah, this is the right company, I'm in the right place. Finally, a few weeks later, you are done with your first task. Kind of finished to engineer a code, maybe for a product owner. Still the code, someone did it, you want to kind of release it, you want to get it to the end customer. But you found in the system that there are 2 bugs, resolved bugs, somewhere sitting in the repo as finished things, but you can't release them on the, but they are sitting there, they haven't been released. 2 bugs. And you're like, hey, my task is blocked by those. So you go to the meeting with those technical managers, you tell them there's 2 bugs, they have been fixed, seems like 2 months ago, it's blocking me, what's happening? And they're like, yeah, well, it hasn't really been a priority, we'll take care of that, don't worry, we'll take care of that. But yeah, okay, I did a good job, I found something stuck in the system, cool. So 2 weeks later, you look at the system, I mean, well, the Jira, typically, and it's like, maybe a few engineers commented on a ticket, which is kind of finished, but it's not released. You ask them, hey, what's up? Why? You said this is gonna be released, but it's not released. What's up? And they're like, well, there were other priorities. There were more important features to work on, and actually it's quite risky to release these 2 because they were finished like 3 months ago and we don't even know anymore what those are about, and so on and so on. You're like, okay, what do we do now? And they're like, we'll look into it. You know, everyone on that meeting is a bit like, yeah, that's normal. That's normal. We care about the business, not these 2 bugs which are not going to bring us any value. Like, does the story feel familiar to any of you?
Yes, exactly.
Good, I'm in the right place. It's not like I'm gonna fix your issue, if it is an issue, because it doesn't mean that all bugs must be fixed immediately. We have a process and whatnot and whatnot. So, let's try to dig in a little. How does it happen that these startups, which look so fancy and they had some agile transformation maybe or whatnot, actually after a while, after a few years, start looking more like the tortoise. It's a very smart animal, but it's slow. It is slow. Kind of, you can't reject that idea. So how does it happen? Okay. So now let's get serious. So, what is a startup? The definitions are like, I'm sure we could have 3 hours in a bar discussing what is a startup. I've seen very interesting examples. But in my mind, what a startup is, I heard definition from Vasily, mine goes a little bit further than that, kind of a starting new company which has their first success in the business. It's, I don't know, 10 people or so. For me, that's a startup. It's a relatively new company with small amount of people. In ventures, and where are these angel investors, they have a very specific definition of startup, and it doesn't fit mine, I know. And then, what issues? This is imaginary list. But obviously every company has a list of things they need to take care of. In my example, quickly going through for those who can't see it from the behind. So, of course, this year we must make plus 10 revenue comparing to last year. So the business must grow 10%. In startups it should be bigger than 10%, I assume. Then 90% of staff to finish sustainability training. What do engineers think about sustainability trainings? Boring, yeah, so not a fun thing to do for many. Then probably some re-architecture of the existing platform, maybe some migrations. There's some banks saying you're using our APIs, those are deprecated, start the new ones, you don't have time for that because it doesn't bring value, right? Just move into the new API, it doesn't add value kind of today. And a couple of other things, like some customers are complaining about some weird issue. Something's blinking, you're like, that's a small amount of people, we don't have time. Yes, come on, you're a successful business. And so on and so on. Of course, my area, which I promised not to announce, Some teams are asking for more test environments. Typical, I believe. Kind of in every company where I saw, where I've been, everyone's asking for more test environments. So this is a list. We could add 8 more, doesn't really matter. We could group them into 4 areas. Most probably, if we would list all the needs, there would be more areas, but for the sake of making the point and for the sake of simplicity, we stick with 4 right now. So there are some asks by the board or by investor maybe, depends, some group of those needs. Then the design, that's the customer design, that's also the technical design. In a small company, hopefully together, well, depends. Anyhow, product design. Then the actual resources, the people who are doing the things, plus the infrastructure you need, the computing power to kind of do the development, so development resources. And then real customer needs like this one, 0.1. And then in a company of 10 people, okay, maybe 20 still works. There's most probably it's operating as a one team where everyone is kind of looking at the why this company exists, why are we making money, how we are doing that, and what are our areas, kind of areas of concerns, what's the list we need to take care of, and so on. So that works brilliantly. They are a new growing company. The keyword growing. So picture that years go by. 1 year, probably enough, depends on how successful the company is. What naturally happens is that, well, 20 people maybe can, but 50 people can't operate as one unit. It just doesn't work. It becomes a chaos. So what companies traditionally do is, let's start splitting somehow by area, by function, and then in our case, somewhat a reasonable thing, let's make 4 departments. Ones which will kind of look at the leadership needs asked by the board, one which looks at the design topics, one which is very much about let's build this thing, and then the customer support team maybe. So we get something like this. The issues or needs move to the each part. And still kind of the first year everyone says this model is perfect. We meet, let's say every week, maybe every second week the leadership team meets, maybe the whole company meets to discuss the ongoing needs and issues and whatnot. But then someone new joins the company, someone leaves, maybe another year goes by, and this perfect model, which was working for 50 people, the company now is, let's say, 75. Good enough. And someone starts saying those monthly meetings is total useless waste of time because other departments are reporting on something and it doesn't concern me. And when I'm speaking, then no one's listening to me because, let's say, I'm the development department lead, whatever the name is, and when that person starts talking, others are kind of going to their stuff because it's not their concern. Have you seen meetings like that?
No.
So you're listening. Okay, good. So in kind of, it becomes a thing that people start responding to and ask, well, that's not my responsibility, go to that person, I don't understand this topic, it's not my profession, and things like that, kind of, go do your own job. And what we get in result when the time goes by is that kind of each department starts looking in their own direction. And why the dollar sign moves to each side, it's kind of a very common practice to split the budget and say, this department now owns their budget, this is what they get, they are maybe they are not making money, but that's the budget they have. What the department, let's say now in one department we have 25 people, 100 people in total, what do they care about? About their assigned budget. Where's the product mindset? It's not there anymore, it's not. So I don't want to feel to kind of show up as arrogant or so whatsoever. But the key point is there were amazing 2 stories on how important the product management and product mindset is. But if this is the company, then those stories don't work because the company is broken. So how do we make sure that those nice stories do work? Kind of, it's about that. So you're in the middle, like the Pac-Man, in a never-ending game, trying to do something, jumping from department to department. That depends on your role. Now, let's take a little bit different perspective on the same company, let's say. So typically, I assume every company starts with the first successful product, not 2. Who starts with 2 products? Can be 1 successful product. That's the business is built on that. Typically, of course, this is not a perfect picture for the architecture, but I hope you can follow the idea. We have some front end, some back end. There's most probably some CI/CD to deliver the whole stuff, and there's some platform at the bottom. That's the infra, that's some crazy stuff, maybe Kubernetes, maybe not, doesn't need to be. So the company grows and someone comes with idea, let's make the second product, did the perfect product management and found a real niche in the market, let's build the thing. I'm looking at things more as an engineer, to be honest, if I think about it. Yes, I do. And then what naturally in most of the companies would happen is that the leadership says, okay, this is the team for the second product. The worst example, let's hire the team for the second product. So most probably some people move out from the first team, but last year we invested, whatever, 2 mil in this beast, so we must use it for the second product. It's an underlying platform, it's supposed to be generic, it's the infra stuff, our product is not about infra stuff, so let's centralize that, let's share it. And it's not a bad idea, it's how things generally should be done. But if we go back to this is let's say 100 people company, do they have the skills? Does that team, most probably there's team behind that, do they know how to support 2 different products? No. Most probably they don't. They don't even have an idea what to do if both product teams come with the request, we need it now. What do? They blow up and they go help the product which is screaming louder. So kind of on a lower floors, the whole product development becomes a bit messy. You start seeing delays and stuff like that. So additionally to that, those teams, the product teams, it's a product, but there's a team behind that. You start hearing complaints like, we are late because there's something in the platform, we requested it, but it hasn't been delivered, and so on and so on. So yeah, the dependency. You have a dependency, absolutely not. And this is simple stuff. I mean, this is super simple. 2 products, 1 dependency. That's simple. In reality, we have a lot more of this. So I kind of assume that a lot of people know what is inventory, but still I must quickly mention it. So picture you're rich and you have your personal car park. Let's say with 100 cars. Luxurious cars. Feels good? Feels good. Yeah. We could enjoy that. But then, if kind of think about the car park, if you have 100 cars, 100 it's hard to picture. Let's go with 20. 20, sorry, you're not that rich. 20. Sorry for that. So, to make sure that you can easily, in the morning, take 1 car out for the drive, you need to organize them somehow. They need to be placed in the right way so that so that you can actually jump in and drive. That's kind of one thing. You need to organize them. Then 20 cars. Most probably you're not driving with them every day. They get old. You need to maintain them. Actually, the car breaks if you don't use it for 10 years. Kinda. It does. Not all of cars, but generally you need to maintain it. It's money. It's just sitting there. You're not using it. You're paying money. At some point, probably you decide, I want to have a luxurious bus. Why not? My friend just got a camper and he's super happy. Almost like a bus. So how do you place that in your car park? Now you have a little bit different rules where you place the bus so that cars also nicely fit and everyone can drive out. So it makes things complicated. Most probably at some point you're rich enough, you hire the car park manager. Again, pay the money. And what about the taxes? Even if car doesn't break, still you need to pay a yearly tax. So it's just adding and adding and adding to the expenses. And that's kind of your car's inventory in this example. What a lot of people don't kind of realize that if we stack up finished features, don't release them, stack them up for the release, it's like the car park. So there's a finished feature sitting and waiting for a release. Maybe you're super agile and you release every second week. Cool, still it's waiting for the week, probably 1 week. It's not just that it costs money to keep it in the upcoming release. You're also not getting the money today, what you could be getting from delivering this feature. Make sense? So that's the issue with inventory. The bigger it is, the more expensive it gets. It's not that simple. I'll come back to that in a moment. Anyhow, kind of what we start hearing from those teams is something like one product team says, all features ready, let's deploy. But typically what I see in the companies which have even many probably unrelated products, they have a cadence, a aligned cadence on a company level. So the response is more like, we're almost done, let's wait for the release date, that's when everyone deploys. After 5 years in such environment, it seems logical next step, but there's no logic in it. If it's ready, why it's not out there? And kind of, the company becomes a place where a 10-minute fix for a bug maybe takes a day just to get it out to the end customer. And of course costs some reputation to the company. Now, what happens next? Typically, in the situation which I described, is someone brings in a consultancy agency which can fix all the problems. Most probably it's a transformation project, scoped with an end date, 3 years. There are a lot of fancy names what type of transformation project you may get. The trick is, I personally have seen a butterfly as one of typical examples when people are talking about transformation projects for the company. It can be for a team, it can be for a product as well. Does that butterfly somehow get better after this, after the metamorphosis? Does it get better?
Just different. It's just different, not better.
Well, actually it dies, I think.
Sooner. Yes.
But the followers, the children are pretty much the same butterflies. They are not better butterflies. There was a transformation, there was metamorphosis, but it's still the same animal. It didn't evolve. And kind of that's what happens with all kinds of transformation projects. And we, who are kind of in that mix, remember the Pac-Man, every one of you, me, at the end of transformation project, once it's over, let's say, well, we changed the way with those 4 departments, somehow restructured something, maybe. At the beginning, it actually does improve the company performance, most probably, typically. But a few months after, maybe a year later, kind of people who were in this at the beginning, they, if not formally, then informally, often go back to their old ways of working. Because that's how they started this company, that's who they are at their core. So the transformation project kind of doesn't really work. I'm not saying all stories are like that, but that's tricky. Is that really the time right? Oh my gosh. Okay, now pick out the phones, please. Because we need to do this experiment. Let's see what happens. I'll do a quick survey. It's actually not that quick, but I want to see the results. This. And oh, you already got it. You should be able to see the first question there. So the first question: do you know how much it takes in total to fix customers' complaint in your product code? I'm talking about the job where you are today. It's all anonymous, don't worry. Kind of, do you know? I'll wait for people to answer and then I'll bring it on the screen. $23, $25, it's coming. I'm moving it here. Still the code is somewhere on the slide, I think. Okay, so 33 people said yes. Those in the middle, it's more like more no or more yes. Kind of think about them in this way. There's 1/4 of people who are more like no, we don't know. So now the next question. Someone changed something. Moving to the next one. The question is, how do I do that? Press that. Yeah. I think I got the wrong screen there. Now it's going to be the right screen, or I'm just stressed and lost. This should do the thing. Let's see what happens. Yeah. Do you know the trend on how this number has changed over the last year? That previous number. I'm waiting for 25. Yeah, and you're not bad people, okay? Let's agree on that. But that's somewhat the reality, that often we don't really know, are we doing better or not comparing to the last year? A lot of companies are not taking those measurements. I see 1/4 roughly are saying yes, superb. Now, moving on. Has someone had a deep discussion with the leadership on what needs to be done to improve this number? Even if you don't know, it still applies to you. So it's not about improving then, but how do we get that number? And it's not about how you have had that discussion, but at least someone, you know that there was a discussion. That's good enough. Okay, we see somewhat 50-50 split. Discussions are good. That's good. That shows some trend. And since I didn't want to pay 50 euros for one Slido presentation, then we're moving to more interesting questions. So, open this. Oh, you're already voting. It's lunch. Perfect. There's still the QR code, there's also some nonsense. So, do you have regular development activities to improve that number? Like in your sprint plan, as regular things. We're seeing somewhat similar situation. There's a half which say we don't really improve as a regular thing, and that's very popular. You're not bad people. There's 1/4, which in some DORA terminology probably are called elite performers. Cool. Good, good. Then, do you have a process to limit the number of changes in one batch or release? To limit it, someone says, let's push this thing in, and there's a block saying, no, it's too much. No. Okay. That's an interesting audience, truly, a 50-50 kind of situation. Someone changed their mind, it seems. Okay, okay. Yeah, because if it's ready, if it's part of the sprint or whatever, if this is what we made in 4 sprints, maybe that's your release cadence, then let's just push it out. Kind of a risky thing. And finally, the most fun thing, let's see what elite performers do. How long would it take to deliver 2 different versions of the same simple fix to the customer? So think about kind of what is needed in your current engineering situation to actually do it on a live environment for the end customer, to maybe not the same customer but 2 similar customers, to show them this is one way how we could fix this and this is another way.
What is the difference between 1 and 4?
Look in the phone, there should be explanation of what is 1 and what is 4. It's not a yes-no thing. Okay, I see everyone believes that it's technically doable. That's a good start. I'm wondering, is it so that everyone is using feature toggles? It's not that popular of a practice, but good for you, good for you. Okay, we got 12%. And remind me what the 4 stands for?
It's the same as 1 version.
The same as 1 version. So, kind of, it didn't add any expense to the process. Really? Good, very good. So we have 31%, maybe a little bit less. So it's not, the 4 is not about it will take the same as 1 feature. It's about it didn't add expenses to the process, delivering 2 versions of the same thing. Maybe that changes a little bit. Okay, very interesting results. Good. To be honest, I was expecting a bit less on the right side, so happy for you. Very good. Now, moving on. 14 minutes or less. Okay, let's see, what can I do? I will start speeding up. So, first of all, no, I can't speed up. Let's see what goes. So, very popular quotes. Peter Drucker. It's all about if you don't measure a thing, then it's lost. Then you're not paying attention to it, it gets worse. It's a continuous deprovement. So if you're measuring only amount of whatever features or value you are creating, you are kind of deproving all the time. And your process gets slower and messier and so on and so on. So we need better measurements. We can't afford more measurements, we need better measurements. This should be a known topic for everyone who is in IT, so we start, it's a value stream. So we start with idea or issue, it's registered, then it enters the backlog, then someone starts the development, those small circles in the middle, it's like moving from one environment to another, the same finished feature or something like that. And finally it's somewhere in a live environment, and at the end it's generally available. So one metric, what we need to actually look at how fast is our process and company at the end, is definitely the change lead time. So how fast the features which have been finished and tested, how long does it take to get it on a live environment? And even in agile companies, sometimes that number is like 6 weeks. I'm pretty sure that many of you have seen that as well. So then the cycle time. So when developer starts work, how long does it take to get it on a live environment? So it's actually released. Depends, do you have releases? Depends how cool you are. Maybe you don't have releases. But anyhow, how long does it take to get on a live environment? Of course, if you want to start digging into details, and that's for those teams who are very much into engineering, they can start measuring how long does it take from environment to environment and so on. So that this shows performance of the company, of the engineering, of creating products and fixing them. But obviously, at the end, what we care about is the total lead time. So when someone registered an idea, let's do this, how long does it take to get it to the end customer? And it's not like all ideas must be developed, of course, it's more about those which are good ideas. Okay, don't kill me for that, good ideas, that doesn't work. But these are the 3 metrics we can start looking at to understand what's the performance of our product engineering or product development company. There are a lot of other KPIs. These definitely help, and for the sake of time I will not get into them. The thing is that if you will start looking at these KPIs and measure them and start having a process to make them shorter, smaller, to push it down, these ones naturally will get better for those who kind of can follow what all of those are. So looking at more and more KPIs doesn't really help. Focusing on 3, that's something what we can manage in our mind. But the thing is, these are the time KPIs. Are humans good with time, with foreseeing future? We are actually over-optimistic and irrational when we talk about the time. Like, I'm going to do it tomorrow. How often did that actually happen? Even in a real professional environment, how often does it really happen if it's a bigger thing? And things like that. So, how do we move from maybe shift that product mindset, what we were listening about this evening from Roman and Vasily, how do we move it to the real development, to the teams who are doing the legwork? How do we avoid situations like previously there was, they came with idea and saying it's shit. So what do we do? There shouldn't be such situations in a company which is organized in a product development way, in a value way. So the money sorry, but it's all about the money. How do we change the people perspective that they are not building features, they are building value? And what's the one unit or currency what everyone understands, no matter what's the role? It's the money. So how do we do that? I'm not going to give you a cure. I'll show a very simple and kind of oversimplified example. But so one thing you need is turn teams, kind of the product development, turn it into value, so that you can say, okay, monthly expense for Product Magic was 123. We're rich today, millions. Monthly expense, a bit crazy, whatever, let's go for it. Then monthly income, so you do a profit loss, basically exercise. Then you see the revenue, but the important moment is what's the revenue improvement. And this number, it includes how much the team costs, how many features they have delivered, what value we believe in those features is sealed in. So the value of a team grows only when the feature is delivered to the end customer, and so on and so on. What is super important, not to start ranking teams, then things are gonna go super bad. This is about having one view, and the most important is the last line, the total, and that shows how the company is improving as such. Getting this model out and approach, that's going to take a crazy effort if it's an ongoing company. Then it's the improvement that matters. What about the platform team? Same thing. It's the platform team, they don't make anything for the end customer. Still, they can be measured in some unit approach. So most probably we actually will move up to some kind of internal currency, because saying that platform team made 2 million is a nonsense, because no one's paying them. If at the end you have teams paying money to each other, there are such ideas in the practice, but maybe it's not gonna end well. But so you use cherries for what name you use, some kind of points, but so that you can see value of your products and how that value is changing from months to months or from week to week. It depends on kind of how fast, not how fast. There's no perfect answer for that. And then if we think about sustainability training, remember that there could be a real situation that company can't work with another company because not enough people got certified, for example, in some bullshit stuff. So can you actually turn that whole value or currency idea into the team which doesn't have 50% people certified with this bullshit? The value of that team is lower, it's decreased until they get certified. Show that to the team, the perception of how good they are doing should change. But this is a risky game. The batch size, 5 minutes. We don't have time for it. We don't. Yep. So this story, hopefully the good story. So you enter the company, it says we care about the customer. Every senior engineer can explain what does it mean, because the money comes from the customer. Then someone introduces you to this nice poster. Cool, you're happy. 2 weeks later, you are finishing your first task. Well, maybe a few tasks, but kind of you know how to get it done. You are seeing kind of how things happen, starting from the customer through the company, and what's your role. You maybe look at the dashboard and you see that once you deployed your first feature on the production, it actually, on that complex dashboard, increased your team's value. Team and product in this case has sign equal in the middle, if you noticed. I'm using both words interchangeably. if you can't do that, don't be afraid to change the structure of how you work. So maybe your friends start calling you, what's that cool company? And it's a nice story to have. So, key takeaways. Product management and mindset are the must-have, but continuous improvement might eat your product for breakfast. You may do all these nice things as in previous talks, and still it just doesn't work, it's too slow or whatever. So every improvement is a task. Maybe forget the name improvement. Those are tasks to be done. So you need metrics. If you don't have metrics how fast your company is, and a lot of companies don't really do that, then what do you really know? That your business is growing, cool, but can you do better? You need governance. Of course, some regular events to look at the dashboard, to discuss these results, to make sure that teams discuss with each other where they can help and so on and so on. And first of all, be patient, because keeping the same speed of engineering, of that lead time, remember lead time, the big one, even the cycle time and others as well, if you can keep the same amount of time to get the good stuff out in a growing organization, you are winning. Because typically it just decreases, but the leadership says we're having another amazing year because the business is good. You can do better. Thank you.